Unafraid Show, Rice or Wrong. It's your boy, George Ricer in the building. If you don't know who I am, I'm the creator of unafraidshow.com, former NFL player, been written everywhere, been on Fox Sports 1, been on ESPN, all these things. Appreciate your time, appreciate your energy. Thank you for joining me on Unafraid Show today. Today, we got the Pac-12 power rankings, college football top 10, bunch of stats, and also there is a state of emergency declared because the Ducks have rolled into Washington State. They have rolled into Pullman, and these people in Pullman do not know how to act. They're not used to having great things out in the world. This is their first time ever hosting college game day, despite having their flag old crimson there at every single game. Never have they ever had college game day there. They've been on college game day now. This will be their third time, like where they've been playing against the opponent. But this is only the first time it's ever made its way to Washington State. And the people out there do not know how to act. So just to recap real quick, there is one team in the Unafraid Show top 10 at this point in time. I wanted to go over that real quick. Number one, Alabama. Number 2, Ohio State. Number 3, Notre Dame. Number 4, Clemson. Number 5, Texas. Number 6, Florida. 7, LSU. 8, Oregon. 9, Michigan. 10, Central Florida. And the teams that are up next are Oklahoma, Georgia, Washington, and NC State. Yes, I will get to this week's games and picks and all of that stuff as well. So I wanted to go over the Pac-12 power rankings for week 8. This week that starts today. There is a game tonight. Huge game tonight in the Pac-12. So I wanted to go over the power rankings first. We have sitting in the number 12 spot, where you would typically find them, where you would typically think that they would be, the Beavers of, actually they made it back to number 12 last week, and everybody thought I was crazy. They were like, George, UCLA hasn't won a game. But I was like, listen, I know that this team, the way that they played against Washington in the Rose Bowl, was much better than Oregon State. How, George? How do you know? They were both losing. All right, look, Oregon State is the number 1 rushing offense in the country with 211 yards a game. But they also are dead last in scoring defense. They give up 47 points a game. Yes, 47. UCLA only gives up 31. Well, only. Compared to Oregon State, it's really good, but in general, that's 11. They have the number 12. Oregon State has the number 12 rushing defense in the country. Yes, they're worse in rushing, in scoring defense, in passing defense, in total defense. Yes, they have the worst defense ever known to mankind in 2018, at least. Number 11 in the Pac-12 power rankings. We have Cal. Cal is 3-3. George, how are they below Arizona, UCLA, who's 1-5? Have you seen them play lately? Like the Pac-12, the Unafraid Show power rankings are not based just solely upon your record. Your record's nice. It's a good indication of what you've done, but these are up to the minute. What have you done for me lately, and what are you doing at this point in time? And if you look at Cal is trending downward. I mean, so they started out 3-0, and then they came and played Oregon. And when they played Oregon, after they played Oregon, they've dropped 2 games straight, including getting absolutely taken behind the woodshed and bad things done to them by UCLA. They gave up 37 points and only scored 7 against one of the worst defenses in the Pac-12. So why else would Cal not be number 11? I like Justin Wilcox, who's my former teammate, but this is not going so well. Number 10. Yes, Cal did lose to UCLA zone. Arizona, number 10. Khalil Tate is hurt, This offense has looked nothing like we expected it to look. Now, it's interesting. The starting quarterback for Arizona this week is going to be Rhett Rodriguez, who is Rich Rodriguez, former Arizona head coach who got ousted. It's his son who's starting. He stayed there. He's going to start this week. He's a much better passer than Khalil Tate is. But at the same time, like, this team is not looking good at all. They are trending completely downward. And this game against UCLA, because they play UCLA this week, it is going to be absolutely pivotal to deciding whether they go to a bowl game or not. Because Arizona at this point in time doesn't look like a team that can make a bowl game at all. I did put out the bowl game predictions. I will give you guys those in just a minute. I got to find them. The bowl game predictions for the Pac-12 at this point in time. Okay. Number 9 on the list. The UCLA Bruins. George, how did they get one win and moved up 2 spots in the power rankings? I just told you about Cal, one of the teams they beat, and then Arizona. There's also UCLA. I could not believe, like, I could not find a way in my brain to believe that Chip Kelly's team was going to go 0-12 this year. I just couldn't make that make sense to me. I was like, this dude is such an offensive genius that he's got to find a way to get it right at least once. And he did against Cal. Found a way to get it right. UCLA is their quarterback, Dorian Thompson-Robinson. He's playing much better. Because he's still a freshman. He's making freshman mistakes, doing freshman things. But at the same time, he is a significantly, like, you see the promise. Like, you see flashes. One of the ways that you can always tell a really good player who's going to be a great player or has the potential for that is when he flashes. And flashing means that he shows that there are some plays where you look and you're like, wow, that was good. Like, he'll make a throw and you're like, damn, like, that was nice. Like, there's something to that. So UCLA for the future looks brighter. Their future looks bright. The present looks like 2 or 3 wins right now. Arizona State at number 8. They had a bye last week. But I'll tell you that this is the most intriguing team in the Pac-12 to me. Because I'm still not sure what to make of them. Like, Herm Edwards, he seems like he's doing a pretty good job sitting at 3-3. It's because their expectations and their actual accomplishment are about the same. Even a little bit exceeding expectations. Because nobody really knew what to expect. I mean, is this the team that beat Michigan State, who we found out is not that great, but they're still a tough team? Or are they the team that lost to San Diego State? I know the San Diego State's a good team, but they're still a non-Power 5 team. You cannot lose those games. Arizona State, they do come off a bye, and they get a huge test with Stanford coming in town. And Manny Wilkins in this offense, they got to do a little something more. They got to do a little bit more. Stanford sitting at number 7. They're 4-2. They had a bye last week. And I'll tell you this. Stanford is known for their intellectual brutality. And there's a bunch of smart guys at Stanford. And I know that they over the bye, they did a bunch of analytic number crunching. Trying to figure out, okay, so if the square root of the offensive line is ×2, then we can run the annexation of Puerto Rico again. You know, something along those lines. They figured something out. You guys are watching The Unafraid Show, listening to The Unafraid Show. George Reister here. Make sure you swipe up, share the feed, tell a friend about The Unafraid Show. So Stanford is sitting at number 7. They aren't able to run the football, which is crazy. Like, you're used to Stanford running for 200 plus yards a game. I mean, even Bryce Love running for 200 yards a game. But Stanford's only averaging 85.7 rushing yards per game. I mean, like, their inability to run the football keeps them in third and long situations. KJ Costello isn't flourishing in those. And they've translated to a Pac-12 worst 32% third down conversion rate. That is horrendous. That is horrendous. Third down conversion rate of 32%. Okay, the best team in the Pac-12 is Oregon at 51. And then you get all the way down the bad teams. The first team that is in the top 5 in the Pac-12 power rankings is USC. And they are at number 9 in third down conversion rate at 37%. You lose games when you don't convert on third downs. That's just the truth. Number 6, Colorado, sitting at 5-1. People tried to convince me that Colorado was a real threat to winning the Pac-12 after starting 5-0. Like, they suffered a bunch of injuries in the game against USC, including their most important player, Laviska Shenault. Like, Colorado is currently top 4 in the Pac-12 in scoring offense, scoring defense, rushing defense, pass efficiency, opponent first downs, and a whole bunch of other categories. Why is that, George, but they're only number 6 in the power rankings? Because the reality is their opponents have a combined record of 12-25. That's why their stats are so good. That's why they're so high. But they do. They're going to get another test this week. They got a test with USC, and now they play a better team this week with the Huskies on Saturday. They got to go up to Seattle. And a win could go a long way to ensuring that Mike McIntyre is back next season as the coach. Because he's sitting on shaky water. I'm telling you that. I know he's 5-1, but I'm telling you what's going on. I always can see the forest from the trees for the coaches being fired. Number 5, Utah. I couldn't believe my eyes. How on earth did Utah score 40 points in consecutive games? How? How on earth did they do that? I mean, because Kyle Whittingham's team seems to have turned a corner offensively. I mean, Tyler Huntley, their quarterback, is being efficient with the ball. Their running back, Zach Moss, is doing a good job. He's third in the Pac-12 with 102 rushing yards a game. They beat up on Stanford, and they beat up on Arizona. They both scored 40. They scored 40 points against both those teams. But the reality is that both of those teams are defensive disasters at this point in time. Yes, I said it. Stanford is a defensive disaster right now. They got absolutely trashed by Notre Dame, even though I do believe Notre Dame is one of the 3 best teams in the country. But Notre Dame is not world beaters. They got stopped by Pitt. Like, they got held to 19 points and damn near lost against Pitt. So Utah, scoring 40 points on them, I don't put a ton of stock in it, even though they did it. But their defense is for real. Like, their defense is their bread and butter because they lead the conference. They lead the conference in first downs. Well, in opponent first downs, defensive scoring, and total defense. Somebody said they've been known to score a lot of points. No, Utah has never been known to score a lot of points. Yeah, they scored, 50-something, 60 against Oregon a couple years ago, but they'll have feats of offensive explosion. They will have feats of offensive explosion, but it's not consistent. Like, it is not consistent at all. I mean, like let's just be real about the situation. In scoring offense, Utah's number 7 in the Pac-12. They average 28 points a game. In terms of, a passing offense, number 10. I mean, like let's not act like that this is a team that is, like offensive juggernauts, because they're not. Number 4, USC. USC is 4-2. And Clay Helton, he got a win when it counted the most, boy. Boy, Clay Helton needed this win like he needed air against Colorado. Because had USC lost to Colorado, the Boo Birds would have been at the door. People would have been calling for his job even more than they already are. I'm telling you. Like Clay Helton, he needed that win. And I don't know how, like this dude is a guy who finds a way to walk through the raindrops. He does. Clay Helton finds a way. Every time he needs a win, when people are starting to, I don't know about this dude, he gets a win. Guaranteed every time. He does not let you down. But their freshman quarterback, JT Daniels, he started slow, threw 2 picks in the beginning of the game, but he finished with 283 passing yards and 3 touchdowns. The Trojans, they're going to need to improve their -6 turnover margin. That means that they've turned the ball over 6 times more than they have gotten turnovers. And that's not good. And one thing that's not going to help that this season is that they lost Porter Gustin, who's their senior leader, best pass rusher. And and the reality is, if they can get past the next 2 weeks against Utah and Arizona State, their schedule appears to get a little lighter because they got Oregon State, Cal, and UCLA coming up. Even though that UCLA game might not be as easy as it looked at first. Number 3 in the Pac-12 Power Rank in the unafraidshow.com Pac-12 Power Rankings is Washington State. We're going to get to their game against Oregon in a minute because that's the biggest game of the entire week in the Pac-12. Oh, George, you're always talking about Oregon. Well, they've had the biggest game in the Pac-12 3 times already this year. Against Stanford, against Washington, and now against Washington State, where GameDay's coming to town. GameDay's been at 2 of them, so, you can't blame me. And then the other one was a top 10 matchup that GameDay could have been at. Number 3, Washington State. We're going to find out what this team is made out of. We're going to find out what Gardner Minshew and the Washington State Cougars are made out of. Because they have the best Pac-12 passing offense at 413 yards a game. No, I did not stutter. 413 yards a game. Like, imagine if LSU could play could play offense like that. If LSU could play offense like that, dude, they would never lose. They would drown Alabama. But they can't. And they also have the second best defense in terms of yards allowed. I was very surprised when I saw that stat. Washington State is the number 1 defense. I'm sorry, the second best defense in terms of yards allowed per game. Very curious. Like, I didn't expect that at all when I saw that. And Mike Leach's air raid offense is very capable of exploiting the Oregon secondary because they rank 10th in the conference in pass efficiency, defensive pass efficiency. Like, if you watch Oregon play, the only place that they seem to be vulnerable on defense is in some one-on-one coverage situations when they're playing man-free. Man-free means everybody's manned up, 1 safety in the middle of the field, and then people are throwing the ball on the edges. Like, that's the only place that they look vulnerable a little bit. And Washington State is very capable because of how good Gardner Minshew, their quarterback, has proven to be, the guy who transferred. And I'm going to tell you, for me, like, this was a game that I circled on the schedule as a trick game for the Oregon Ducks. I did. So Washington State is at number 3. They got a chance to jump to number 1 this week. They got a shot. Number 2 in the Pac-12 Power Rankings, the Washington Huskies. I said Huck the Fuskies last week, but it was game week. But the truth is, this is a top-tier Pac-12 football team. Like, they were a 37-yard missed field goal away from beating Oregon for the 3rd straight year. But now order has been restored. Like, Washington, they have to bounce back from that heartbreaking loss. But if anybody can do it, it's Chris Peterson. Because he was my wide receiver coach at Oregon while I was there. Then he went to Boise and all that, and everybody knows the history. But he's a guy who's not going to let his team lose twice. And what I mean by lose twice is when a team loses and then they turn around and lose a consecutive week to an inferior team, that's when you got beat twice by the same team. Does that make sense? Because you have a letdown, emotional. Same thing with winning. But I'm going to tell you, the difference between this year's Huskies team and 2016 Huskies that went to the college football playoff and 2017 is their ability to pass the football and make big explosive plays. Like their lack of big plays is the difference between them being a great team, a national championship caliber team, and where they are right now. And there's still a chance the Huskies can win the Pac-12 and play in the Rose Bowl. They got a shot. Or the Fiesta Bowl. Number 1, the Oregon Ducks. Oregon Ducks 5-1. They've earned this, buddy. I had them ranked low in the beginning where they had, because they hadn't played anybody. But they played Stanford. They beat Cal. Now they turned around and beat Washington, which is, I had them as a top 10 team in the country. And so did pretty much everybody else. Good on the Ducks. Justin Herbert continues to lead the conference in pass efficiency. The Ducks offense seems unstoppable at this point. But I already told you, I am concerned about what the hell is going to go on in Pullman. What the hell is going to go on in Pullman? Like, this team is good. Like, the Oregon's good, and the Washington State Cougars are good as well. They're good as well. Hold on one second. Let me find this stat. Oh, here it is. The Washington State Cougars, they have a shot in this game. Hello. Okay, here I go. Okay, sorry. That was an emergency. So I wanted to go over the Pac-12. I wanted to go over the schedule for this week, the games, and all of that, the matchups. So, huge game Thursday night. Stanford at Arizona State. This is a big game for Arizona State and Stanford, because Stanford, they have a chance. They still have a chance to make a New Year's Six bowl game and win the Pac-12 if they win out. Like, this is a huge game for them. And then Arizona State, this game is going to be the difference in whether they... This game is going to be the difference in between whether Arizona State makes a bowl game potentially or they don't. And we do not know what the hell is going on with this team. We don't know much about Herm Edwards, but I'll tell you this. I like Stanford to bounce back. I don't know if Bryce Love is back, but I do like Stanford to bounce back in this game. Next game, Saturday morning, at early game, 12:30, Colorado at Washington. This is a game I full well expect to be out of control. Washington is going to destroy Colorado. I'm telling you that. Washington is going to destroy Colorado. Next game up, Cal at Oregon State. Cal is going to win this football game. Cal is going to be 4-3. Oregon State has no chance, because as bad as Cal's offense was against UCLA, Oregon State's defense is even worse. Like, they've got no shot of beating this team, even though Cal will find a way to make it close. Cal will find a way to make this game extremely close. Oregon at Washington State. I like Oregon in this game in a close one. We got USC and Utah. I like USC in that. Well, it's in Utah. I'm so torn. But Clay Helton always finds a way to show up and win games when he needs to. This is a game USC will win. Arizona at UCLA. I'll be at this game. I like UCLA to win 2 in a row. Arizona State starting Rhett Rodriguez. I like it. You guys, thank you guys for joining me for the Pac-12 Power Rankings. I'll talk a little bit later on about how fans in Washington State don't know how to act. They've never had anything good in the world, and now all of a sudden they want to play football. They are, their fans are going crazy. They had to declare a state of emergency in Washington State. These people have never had game day. Oregon has hosted game day the most in the Pac-12 along with USC 10 times. Utah 4 times. Colorado 3 times. Arizona 2. Washington 2. Arizona State, Oregon State, Stanford, UCLA, and Washington State all now have 1. And Cal has 0. So that's a big deal. It's a big deal for them. And if you've never been to Pullman, you don't want to go, but you can understand why they had to declare a state of emergency. They fly that crimson flag, the Washington State flag, at every single game day. Had never had it. It's great for them, but they don't know how to act. They're going to take this L, though. You guys are watching the Unafraid Show. George Reister here. Go to unafraidshow.com. All type of articles up. Peace out. Catch you guys later.